Good afternoon. This is our presentation for the final English project about cross-cultural soft skills for engineering. So we're going to talk about some differences about this culture in which case it's China. This team is formed by Alondra, Zoe, Esaú, Yamil, Andrea, and Ignacio.
Business etiquette. Next, please. Okay. The required dress code in China regarding business etiquette considers all types of styles and suits, as long as they are conservative. Bright colors of any kind are considered inadequate. Also, punctuality is vital. Being late is a serious offense in the Chinese business culture. Next, please. In greetings, handshakes are quite common, although you should always wait for your Chinese counterpart to initiate the gesture. Also, nodding and smiling is a very common greeting. In official business meetings, you will be offered a handshake. This handshake must be initiated by your Chinese counterpart, as mentioned before. Next, please. Regarding the address titles of courtesy, most people should be addressed with a title followed by their last name. Next, please. As far as exchanging business cards, this is a common practice. It is advisable to have one sided in English and the other in either simplified Chinese or traditional Chinese, depending on the region. Give your card using both hands and ensure the Chinese side is facing the recipient. Also, you should receive your card attentively and examine it for a few moments. Next, please. The foreign team should consider certain aspects when negotiating, such as being able to see the big picture, convey clarity about the company's purpose and objectives in China, listen carefully, be patient and persistent, control emotions, expectations, and ego, have a thorough knowledge of Chinese culture, make a commitment to understand and observe the protocol, have a good memory and pay attention to the detail, and last but not least, be respectful, trustworthy, and sincere. Next, please.
Okay, now it's time to talk about contrast with Mexican culture. But first, I'm going to tell you about, well, a little introduction about this. Actually, we have a example of different companies that work with us in our state or here in Mexico. And I have my own experience with those companies. I haven't worked with them, but my brother does, and later I'll tell you about that. But first, it's time to talk about possible problems to overcome of both sides. The principal reason is our culture. For them, their jobs are purity, and instead of here, our purities are family, festivities, things like that. When they come here to build a company and work with us, they expect the same philosophy that they have, but that's the only at the beginning because they are still working with us, and that means that we're good. We have good relationships, and as I told you, it's only in the beginning. And next one, please. And what about hierarchy? Well, here we can find some difference about different kind of bosses. The first one, we can find it as the master chief of the company. He usually lives in other cities, like in their own cities that they belong to. They are not in Mexico. Then we have different bosses that leave the company in Mexico, but they are constantly moving into different countries or different companies that they have around here. So we can find other kind of bosses, and those are Mexicans. and they usually are engineers in charge of different areas. And an extra point of view, it's about my brother that, as I told you, he worked with Chinese people and he has good relationships with them. And actually, even me, I have eaten with them in some meetings. So there is a big difference that the information we can find on internet and in the real life. Excellent, please.
And values and priorities. The values that govern companies in China are related to the values of Confucianism, which are truth, reciprocity, harmony, and long-term orientation are identified as the key. China cultural values, in the same way, they think that since these values do not exist within the business, they will end. The Chinese cultural values are the main representation of the 7 core virtues of Confucianism: benevolence, harmony, midway, forbearance, filial piety, truth, and caution words. Unlike the Mexican culture, I think that the values are somewhat similar in theory. Outside with our country, they are not strictly followed, since on many occasions it is more important to generate profits or achieve the objectives set by companies. Next, please. Decision making. Chinese culture is characterized by being extremely bureaucratic, which also applies in decision making within their companies. This makes it a slow and tedious process. In general, decisions are made by the boss and are only communicated to his subordinates, who makes the change without questioning the decision, which is why there is little initiative on the part of the employees. In Mexican companies, decision making is generally carried out by a group of people where shareholders and senior employers, maybe who allow themselves to be advised by the people who are close to the problem. Next, please. Company loyalty. Within Chinese companies, there is not a great culture of loyalty towards the company, since staff turnover has been very high in recent years in any type of positions. This is due to the great demand for employees that exists in the country, so that even people who have a high hierarchical level do not last more than 2 years in the position, since on many occasions competing companies improve the offer of their current employer, which do not hesitate to move to the organization. This is something similar with our country, especially in workers, since the company that we have here suffer a great turnovers of personnel. On the other hand, in managerial or directive positions, the employees try to stay for a long time. Next, please.
Okay, now for social and cultural etiquette. For meals, they have the gai fan, which is translated as cold rice and sometimes is served with meat or even vegetables. And also they have noodles and they are eaten for lunch and have different types to prepare it. And last one is the baozai, that are dumplings. This is the most popular meal in China. Now talking about the religion, as we see in the graphic, the majority is agnostic, followed by the Chinese folk religion. This religion is characterized by broad fields in salvation and understanding the influence of the nature. But only the state recognizes 4 religions like Buddhism, Catholicism, Islam, and Daoism, so different of what we have here in Mexico. Next, please. Thank you. And now we have the taboo topics. One taboo in China is the number 4 because it sounds like the word death. And for this reason, the number 4 is avoided, particularly on phone numbers, license plates, and others. And also another topic, it could be the implementation of the one-child policy in 1979 to 2015. Now for the family. Family in China is known for its strong family system. Traditionally, the Chinese family had well-defined the roles for different family members in addition for the being patriarchal. And in China, the elders are viewed as source of wisdom and spiritualism. And they are so respected to the extent that questioning their own authorities is considered offensive. For the children, we have that the children have no authority over their own life. All decisions that they make, it's made for them.
So now we're going to talk about the current affairs and specifically about an economic issue that China is going through this moment, actually. And basically, it's about China's economic growth that has declined. It is known that China, since the 1980s, used to have a very good, well, in that moment, before the 1980s, had an economic issue, but since then, it started to develop and grow and be stabilized. But since 2015, now is kind of declining, and we can study and analyze this through the GDP, which it states for the gross domestic product. This is an indicator and a measure for the size and health of a country's economy, according to the Bank of England. So as we can see, by 2010, China got economic growth again because of the GDP increasing. But as I told you before, by 2015 or 14, it started to decline again. And could be affecting because of this means that China's growth has been slowed owing to the maturity. Maturity can be defined in this case as a stock economy. This could be because of the economic problems that are happening in Europe. The economy in Europe affects the China's economy because they are pretty good trading partners. So that's why economies of Europe affects China. And with these affections, there's a problem with the productivity. This means there's a low productivity as a result of low capital. With this low capital, well, it is not, in my opinion, it is not that good for a country, because for some other countries that they are looking for like investing, well, with this kind of economy issues, it's not that good for them. So China in this moment, it's trying to work and stabilize with so many ways.
Okay, now investment and opportunities for engineers. In March 2021, the Chinese technology company Hisense announced that it will invest $260 million in a plant and an industrial park for smart appliances in Mexico, which will be located in the municipality of Salinas Victoria, Nuevo León. This plant will generate more than 6,000 new jobs. Next. In 2018, the Chinese automotive company BAIC invested 2 billion pesos to build its first plant in 2020 for the assembly of electric vehicles in Mexico. This plant will generate 2,000 jobs. In 2017, the Alliance of Giant Motors Latin America and Jack Motors announced an investment of 4.4 billion pesos in our country for a new complex located in Hidalgo, where Jack brand cars will be produced. This new complex will generate more than 1,000 jobs. Daimei Automotive, which is a company with experience in automotive supplies, opened in 2020 its second plant in Mexico, located in Coahuila, and whose investment was of $86 million. In addition to announcing the construction of a third plant in our country, which will represent an investment of $30 million. And since these four companies are related to the automotive and technology industry, there are work opportunities for mechanical engineers since they are capable of designing and developing all types of machinery as well as their respective parts or devices necessary for their correct operation. Industrial engineers since they can organize, develop, implement, and evaluate the systems used by companies, in addition to making the most of each of the resources available to meet the needs of a company, reducing costs. Mechatronics engineers because they are in charge of diagnosing, maintaining, and repairing vehicles, as well as managing automotive workshops. In addition, they are primarily responsible for integrating mechanical and electronic devices in order to carry out various tasks automatically. And environmental engineers, as they help to study the impact that companies have on the environment in order to help taking care of and respect the environment that surrounds us.
And summing up everything that we saw in this presentation, well, it's clear that it's not everything about business. We have to learn and also comprehend some others' country culture if we're looking forward to study or work in some others' country. Because we don't know the way that the lifestyle, we don't know if we can offend someone at some point. And as it is stated in the article, well, as we all Mexicans, we have to understand that, well, the way that Mexico does any process, like the Mexican way is not the only way. There are so many other ways. And if we want to work or cooperate with someone that is from other country, we have to learn about it. So, as I said, it's not everything about business, it's also about social factors. And here are our references, and that's it. Thank you very much.